It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the three films of September 9th, 2005. Now, on today's show, we've got Scott Derrickson, of course, the director of Sinister, The Black Phone, and Doctor Strange, with one of his earliest movies, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. We will also take a look at the buddy comedy The Man with Samuel L. Jackson and Eugene Levy, plus a new Lasse Hallström film starring Robert Redford, Jennifer Lopez, and Morgan Freeman. But before we get to those movies, let's start with the biggest new release of the weekend, which is, of course, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. So it's basically The Exorcist meets a courtroom drama. I mean, that's literally what this movie is. This is actually based off of a book called The Exorcism of Annalise Michel, played by Felicitas D. Goodman, which tells the story of Annalise Michel and follows a self-proclaimed agnostic, played by Laura Linney, who acts as a defensive counsel representing a parish priest, played by Tom Wilkinson, accused of negligent homicide after performing an exorcism on this woman named Emily Rose, played by Jennifer Carpenter, who you know is Dexter's sister on the Showtime series Dexter. You also have Shohreh Aghdashloo and also Mary Beth Hurt in the film. Like I said, directed by Scott Derrickson, and like I said before, definitely not one of his better films. In fact, if The Day the Earth Stood Still had not existed, this would probably be his overall worst movie as a director. But, to the movie's credit, I will give it this. The exorcism scenes, which sometimes they can look pretty bad, in fact in that trailer I just showed you, some of them look really, really bad, but when you also take into account, keep in mind, Jennifer Carpenter, you see her with the demonic contortions and all that, those were achieved without the aid of visual effects. These were done with practical effects, and I'll give them this. It does look pretty damn cool. It actually makes the movie somewhat overall something that should be seen. However, everything else about the movie is pretty much stuff we've seen done over and over again in Exorcist movies, and trying to mix it with a mix of a little bit of a courtroom drama. But again, it doesn't really have enough there to really sustain the entire length of a movie. I'll give it credit that it does try to do some things that are different, and that's what I kind of like about this director, Scott Derrickson. Even though he has made a couple movies early on that were not great films. The aforementioned Day the Earth Stood Still is a perfect example. And also, his first movie he directed, Hellraiser Inferno, was not a good film in general. But there are definitely but like I said, moments like that with Jennifer Carpenter doing the contortions as the demon, those are pretty cool. Little moments like that go a long way and make this movie kind of above what I would expect from a movie like this. Is it a great movie? No. Is it one I think you should see right away? No, not really, but I think it is something that you should see for at least those scenes in general, and the fact that Jennifer Carpenter really is giving her all in here. Laura Linney and Tom Wilkinson just feel like they're kind of out of place in this movie in general. This doesn't feel like a movie they would usually do, and at least to me, it just didn't work all the way through. I mean, like I said, brief flashes of promise here and there, some good things here and there, but for the most part, overall good, overall decent, overall nothing too spectacular. But for those little moments, it works when it needs to. But again, not something I would say I wouldn't even say watch it as a one-time watch. I'd say go find those scenes of Jennifer Carpenter as the demon and just watch those, and I think you got what you need from this to make your own judgment on whether or not you want to see the rest of it. Me personally, I'd like those scenes, but it's not enough to make me want to see the rest of the film in general. So with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is Samuel L. Jackson and Eugene Levy in the buddy comedy The Man. I mean, you could pretty much see what the problem is with the movie in general, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. But in this movie, you have a federal agent turning up dead, and a hardcore undercover agent, played by Samuel L. Jackson, heads off to try to recover the stolen arm and find the killers. Meanwhile, Andy Fiedler, played by Eugene Levy, is an ordinary family man and a dentist, and is out heading to a conference when he gets stuck in the same mess. A criminal named Kane believes Fiedler is the man behind it all and offers him a gun. Van spots him and drives him across town with him posing as the actual man, and the comedy and hijinks ensue. Well, not really, but you could, like I said, you could pretty much see what the problem from the movie is from the trailer, and is that nobody's really giving Eugene Levy anything funny to do. I mean, Eugene Levy can be really funny, but there was a time after American Pie ended where they just had no idea what they wanted to do with him except just make him Jim's dad, make him the pie fucker's dad in every single movie. It's kind of like with Ray Romano in Welcome to Mooseport. Nobody really knew what to do with him after Everybody Loves Raymond, so he just said, let's make him Ray Barone in every single movie, and you can't do that. Well, luckily he got out of being typecasted and everything, But in the case of Eugene Levy, it took a little bit more time to do that, and it would work if they were giving him something funny to do. I mean, the jokes they're giving him are not really all that funny. They're just it just feels so out of place for this movie in general. But the one thing that I will say that the film has going for it is Samuel L. Jackson, who is giving it his all. I mean, he is trying so hard to get something out of this. And I'm not going to lie, there are times when I did laugh my ass off at Samuel L. Jackson. Like, I love the fact that he beats the shit out of all these different people he comes across. Like, he smacks people in the back of the head. You see in the trailer there, like, you see him literally dry humping some guy in front of a fence on a car, with the car. And it's just like, it's so stupid, but it's funny, and it's giving me some of the hardest laughs in the movie. I mean, stuff like that is very, very funny. Unfortunately, there's no real good movie to sustain the rest of it in general. I mean, the rest of the film itself is just such a boring, generic, lackluster film where you have one guy who's given as much as he can, and the other guy who's not really given a whole lot to do here because there's no good script to work with here. And this is from Les Mayfield, who started his career off on a pretty good note in general. He made a couple good movies, Encino Man, Miracle on 34th Street, Blue Streak, but then did stuff like Flubber and American Outlaws, and then wrapped his career up with Codename The Cleaner. So this is way past the point where that goodwill he had in the 1990s was long gone in general, and it's just like Eugene Levy is trying so hard to sustain any sort of memorability to this movie, keeping up with Samuel L. Jackson, but unfortunately, like I said, he's not really given a whole lot to do, and this is a movie that clearly miscast him in a way that other movies that we've seen him in have been able to work so well with him. We're going to see a movie later in the year, in Cheaper by the Dozen 2, where the movie itself is not great, but they're doing more with Eugene Levy than what they're doing in this movie here. I mean, they're at least trying to give him something to do besides just being the same character from the American Pie movies. This is a guy who's won Emmys. This is a guy who has been so funny and so unique in so many different ways of how he handles comedy in general. But this is a movie that just is completely devoid of his talents in general. You have to have him next to somebody who's trying to do whatever he can to save the movie, and Samuel L. Jackson. But everything else in the movie is just so poorly put together. It's just such a misfire on so many levels. It's a shame because the potential was there, just not the best movie in general to work overall. But to Samuel L. Jackson's credit, he at least gets another shot about 12 years down the road with The Hitman's Bodyguard. Needless to say, it works better in that movie when he's paired up with Ryan Reynolds, but here, not so much. So, with all that said, let's get to overall the best movie of the entire week. And even this movie is not all that great in general. This is An Unfinished Life. Directed by Lasse Hallström, you have the story of a gruff Wyoming rancher played by Robert Redford, who must reconcile his relationship with a struggling daughter-in-law played by Jennifer Lopez, and previously unknown to him granddaughter, after they show up unexpectedly at his ranch and ask to stay with him with his disabled best friend and neighbor, played by Morgan Freeman. Josh Lucas, Cameron Manheim, Damian Lewis are among the cast in this film as well. And the film itself is okay. It wasn't good, it wasn't bad, it was just okay. It's one of those movies where definitely the performances stick out the most in general, specifically with Jennifer Lopez. You know, she had a couple of misfires before this movie, and a lot of people didn't think that she could had the dramatic chops she had back in the day. You know, back in the mid-1990s when she did stuff like Selena or My Family or Out of Sight or U-Turn. But here, she's getting back on track again after the couple tumultuous years she had, and she makes it work here. She overall gives the film the best, stronger performances of everything involved in here. But Robert Redford usually gives it his all. Morgan Freeman usually gives it his all, and it's very important to note that this is also I think Roger Ebert kind of said it best with this particular film in general, is that the typical review of an Unfinished Life will mention that it was kept on the shelf at Miramax for 2 years and is now being part of the farewell flood of leftover products produced by the Weinstein brothers. Because, like I said before, with last week's movies under Classman, this was a part of the divorce between Disney and Miramax, and they just shipped all these movies out of there just to get them out of there. And as Weinsteins were getting ready to start their own company, which we're still about a couple months away from that being the case, but it's not a good sign when Ebert and Roper are the only positive reviews next to Sean Edwards of Fox TV. Anytime Sean Edwards of Fox TV is shown as the positive critical review, 9 times out of 10 the movie isn't going to be all that great. And sure enough, this one isn't really one of the better movies. It's just an okay movie, but not one I'm going to watch and repeat several times. I mean, you know, everybody, the cast is making it elevated to another level where I would say it's worth a watch from that front, but you're never going to want to watch this again after one time. I certainly didn't, but it at least was trying, so I guess I got to give it that. So that's An Unfinished Life. And so with all that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and the next time we meet, we will take a look at the middle of September. A lot of movies to look at in general. We have Reese Witherspoon and Mark Ruffalo in the criminally underrated romantic comedy Just Like Heaven. We also have Nicolas Cage in another criminally underrated movie released this weekend, Andrew Nicole's Lord of War. The horror film Cry Wolf, another one of the Miramax Dimension films that were on the shelf for a number of years. Venom. We have the limited release of Tim Burton's Corpse Bride. We'll take a look at that. We have The Thing About My Folks. And we have Gwyneth Paltrow in Proof, as well as Thumbsucker. So what do we have here? And one more film as well. Everything is Illuminated. So we have a ton of movies to look at on the next episode. How many do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 movies in general. And that's not even counting these other movies in general that came out, but those are the 9 notable ones that I know I can talk about on this next episode. So it's going to be a packed show next time around. So we will delve into all those movies tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and notification button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.